Okay, in this hopefully quick tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do this embossed text. As usual, we're going to be working in Fusion, so the first thing we need to do is get our Fusion comp sorted. So come to your effects library at the top here, make sure your effects library is turned on, come down to effects, and you've got Fusion composition. Now I have mine favorited, so it's always available. Just tick this star here to do that if that's what you want to do. So bring your Fusion comp onto your timeline and put your playhead over it and go into Fusion. The first thing we're going to want is our text. So bring in the text plus node, set it up however you want it. Something modest I always find is quite good. Change your font. I'm going to use one of my favorites, which is Rubik. And just the size. I'm going to leave the text up here because it's going to be used several times through the flow. So the first thing you need is a blur node. So you can find the blur node here in your hotbar. It's this little teardrop looking thing. Bring that in, pipe an output from your text into your blur node. And if we put a blur node in the viewer, you can see it's starting to soften the edges. And obviously the more blur you have, the more soft it is. Next, we want to give the impression of depth to this, and the way I'm going to do that is to use a bump map. So if you press Shift and Spacebar and type bump, you've got this node here, create bump map. That's the one we want. So click on that and add. And now connect your blur to your bump map, put that in the viewer. At the minute you can hardly see anything, just in the middle here you can just faintly make out our writing, but if we bring the height scale up, we start to get something that looks almost 3D. Now, traditionally, this would be used in the 3D environment to give the impression of depth or texture to an object without actually changing its geometry. But I've never been big on tradition, so we're not even going to go anywhere near 3D. All we're going to do is we're going to use this as our embossed text, but obviously we don't want it pink and purple and stuff. So make sure your create bump map is selected, and if you come to your hotbar again and find color corrector, bring that in, connect your create bump map to your color corrector. Now all we're going to do is we're going to come to the inspector, click and hold saturation and drag it to 0. This gives you your sort of shade pattern, if you like. So now we need to cut this out. So I'm going to bring in a background node. I'm going to make it transparent by dropping the alpha to 0. And I'm going to merge my color corrector onto the background node. And now we're going to use our text again. We're going to take a second output from our text and drop it onto the blue mask input of the merge. And now if we view the merge, we've got our cushioned type text. So to add some color to that, I'm going to use another background node. And we're going to merge the first merge onto the background node. And we're going to select our color. And we are going to come to the merge node and change the apply mode to multiply like so, and we're going to need to mask it again. So another output from our text onto the mask. And we're also going to need to swap the inputs so that the background is actually the foreground and our text is in the background. So select your merge node and press Ctrl and T, and that just swaps your inputs over. So now we have pretty much our embossed text. A couple of bit of aesthetic things. If you select this second background and come to your hotbar again and find a brightness contrast node and click it, it puts the brightness contrast node in between the background and the merge. Select your brightness contrast node and just bring the brightness up a bit, and it brings our yellow back to somewhere where it should be. The final part is the red outline. To do that, I'm going to click on the text node. I'm going to press Ctrl and C to copy it. Click anywhere in your node tree and then Shift Ctrl V to paste an instance of your text node. From this instance, I'm going to add an erode dilate node. So Shift Spacebar, erode, and then I'm going to merge the output of merge 2 on top of this erode dilate node. And at the minute nothing appears to have changed. However, if we come to our erode dilate node and just raise it up a little bit, you start to get your border. If you come into your instance text, go to the shading tab, right click on the word red, and then come down and where it says deinstance, select deinstance color group, and now you can change this border to whatever color you want, like so. And that's basically it. So you can then start to tweak it to make it look how you want. So come back to your text node, you can increase the size a bit. In your instance text, or sorry, in your erode dilate, should I say, you can increase the border a bit, make it a bit bigger. In your text node, you can play with sort of tracking if you want to. You can play with your line spacing to get things looking how you want them. Once you've got all that, last background, merge the output of your text onto your background, and then apply a rectangle, which is in your hotbar, to your background. Now if we view that merge, you can adjust your rectangle to size. And that, as they say, is all there is to it. Emboss text. The look of the text. If you come back to your blur and your create bump map, the settings on these will determine how your text looks. So if you come to create a bump map, and then you can mess around with the height scale, and the blur will also impact on the look of the text. And I guess it's about tweaking them to get the look that you're after. So this is sort of more squared off look, whereas if you want to go with a more rounded look, somewhere around and about here will give you that. So yeah, you can play with those, get the look you want. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful. Please feel free to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.